Dan and Sue McDonald are adoptive parents. They are part of the church planting group called Grace Network in Toronto. And thank you both for being with us.
Nice.
Sue, this idea of adoption first came on your radar. Why?
Well, when we were first married, we had talked a lot about having our own kids and really wanting to have our own kids. And part of that discussion was also really wanting to adopt, even if we could have our own kids. So from the beginning, we had really wanted to give children a home and give a place for kids who did not have a home and didn't have a mom or a dad and have the opportunity to be able to do that. So that was one of the first reasons that we as a couple started talking about about adopting.
And the adoption conversation, our previous guest refers to it, how the adoption constellation, all the extended family starts to ripple with news that adoption is going to happen.
Yeah.
Dan, how did your adoption constellation get affected by this?
Yeah, so we had talked to a lot of people about our plans to adopt once we had kids or at some point in our, career as parents. And we were living in the States for a while I was going to seminary. And when we decided to come back to Toronto to plant Grace Toronto Church, my family, the constellation of McDonald's, got together, sat us down and said, listen, we've been talking while you've been planning to move up here. Now that you're coming back to Canada, we have decided that we would like to help you financially and otherwise with the adoption. And we had been wondering when was the right time for us to adopt. And when our family, and they come from a wide variety of faith backgrounds, but when my family all decided to coalesce together and to say, we'd like to help you, because we know on a pastor's salary, it's not that easy to afford an adoption. When they said that, we looked at each other and we thought, we think this isn't just a constellation of my family, this is a crystallization of timing, and this is the time for us to pursue an adoption. And in fact, from the time we had that conversation to the time we got Shayla was maybe a year. So
okay, tell us about Shayla. Because if it's a government adoption, it shouldn't cost more.
Right. We didn't have a government adoption. We actually went through a private agency called Jewels for Jesus, and so we went through them to actually. She came through, or I should say Shayla came through the Jewels for Jesus adoption agency.
And tell us what unfolded. How did you discover her? And how did
we finished our home study, and we decided that one of the things that we wanted to be a part of was an agency who also had what we would call taking care of the birth parents as well, and have a support system for the birth parents, because we knew it was a big decision for them to even give up a baby. So Jewels for Jesus was one of those adoption agencies that we really believed in what they were doing, and so we decided that we would go through them as an agency. So we registered with them, and that was in October. We had to do a couple of classes with them, but even before we could be, what do you call it? Fully registered,
fully
I guess.
Qualified, yeah.
Fully qualified. They had a birth mom come through their system that they thought would be a good fit for us, because I'm actually originally from India, and the birth mom Shayla's birth mom was actually from Sri Lanka. It actually worked out really well. The people groups that she was from and I was from were very similar, so they thought it would be a really good match. And Shayla's birth mom's dad is a pastor as well, so they thought it would really be a good fit, and so that's how she actually came into the picture, and the birth mom chose us.
And Dan, you've said this experience is one of the best ways to imitate God's love. You felt it was. What do you mean by that?
Well, as we have grown in our understanding of our Christian faith, we've understood that God's love for us is an unconditional adopting love. He took strangers, and because of his grace and the depth of his love, he decided to adopt us as his children.
Yes, the Bible actually uses that word,
does.
adoption, to choose.
Yeah, the primary identity that I have now spiritually to God is as an adopted son, Sue as an adopted daughter. So we think that one of the primary relationships in the cosmos is this relationship of adopting father and adopted kids. And it's part of the architecture, the spiritual architecture of the universe. And so we felt if we were to do that, to adopt a child who was not naturally ours, we would be aligning ourselves with the cosmic architecture, the spiritual architecture of the universe as God had patterned it. And we thought it would be a beautiful way of imitating his love for us. Now, he sent his son to do everything, to live, to die, and to rise again, that we might be adopted. And we felt like we could imitate that by doing everything we could to adopt Shayla. She did nothing but be born, but we did everything else to adopt Shayla into our lives.
When you hear that Canada has 30,000 children, most over the age of 2 or 3, waiting to be adopted, what do you think our response should be?
I was staggered when I heard that. I had no idea it was that many. And Sue and I have actually been talking since we heard that statistic seriously about trying to do something, enlisting our church and our people, letting them know about this. I think it's a tragedy that so many kids don't have parents, that so many kids deserve the love that parents can give. And I would love to see more and more people get involved in that.
Well, thank you, Dan and Sue, for getting involved and challenging us. And there is help on our website to find out how you can get involved in caring for Canada's 30,000 children that do need an adoptive home. You can connect to the Adoption Council of Canada there and our other great resources. So now it's time to find out what you think. When you hear adoption, do you think initially of local or international adoption? Send us your answers by phone or email, Facebook or Twitter, and be part of the conversation. Our studio audience is taking a live vote, and we'll have those results in a moment. Coming up, Tracy Clemenger, who as long as she can remember knew she was destined to adopt. Her story is next.